Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Financially Fearless podcast, where I empower women to break barriers and own their financial future. If you're watching me on YouTube, hello, and welcome to my little corner of the YouTube world. My name is Shannon DePalma, and I am here to teach you all about YNAB, finances, money, and empowering women to really start taking control and asking questions about their financial future. So, in today's episode, I'm going to be talking about what I would do if I was $25,000 in debt and starting over from scratch. So if that's you, let me just give you a little play-by-play of where I was. I was $25,000 in credit card debt. Now, I was smart in this way that I only had one credit card. I didn't have it spread out over many credit cards, but I had one credit card, $25,000 of credit card debt. I also had nothing in savings. So if I'm painting your picture right now, no, I was exactly where you were. I had absolutely nothing in savings, and my income was being a little tested because I had made my money through my business. I had built this successful six-figure coaching business, and for some reason, didn't know where my money was going, even though at the time I was using You Need a Budget. So this is your scenario. You have credit card debt, no savings. You're using some type of spreadsheet, maybe you're trying YNAB, You Need a Budget. Maybe you're trying out something to keep track of your money. You probably like dip your toe in the like tracking your money world and dip your toe out. And then to add even more suffering to my story, I was pregnant. And when I became pregnant with my daughter, she made me so sick to my stomach. I was puking like 3 times a day, I think. So if you're in this situation where all of a sudden you have to start questioning how you're going to be making money, being in this like dire financial situation, this is your like financial epiphany, really. Like, this is what's really happening here. It's like your financial, like I call this moment the F this shit moment. I know, I'm sorry. Sorry, everybody. I should have gave a warning to all the moms out there listening. They're swearing in this podcast episode. So it's your F this shit moment. It's your like, this is the moment where you're like, well, I can't live like this anymore because this wasn't a great idea. I'm bringing a baby into the world. I have credit card debt. I have no savings. And also because I never got on top of my money, now this is where I'm at. All of a sudden, I have no savings. I have no idea how I'm going to make money next month because now I have this thing happening to my body where all of a sudden I just can't make money anymore. And that happens to people all the time. Just something happens in their life and they're all of a sudden like, oh my God, I can't make money in the same way I used to make money anymore. So maybe this is your F this shit moment. Like, this is the moment where it all starts to change, where it all is going to change. And that was my moment. But I want to address that $25,000 is no small amount. If you have more than that, I understand it can seem like a mountain that it's impossible to climb. The good news is I am on the other side of that mountain. Like, I have done it. I have helped clients pay off $80,000 of credit card debt. So if you're in that range, it's like you can get out of this. Like, this is going to happen. Like, you're going to be able to get out of this. This isn't going to be something that you're going to be in forever. And it won't be easy and it won't be quick, but like, you're going to be able to do this. Okay. Just listen to the steps I'm going to give you today. You're going to be able to do this. All right. So I just want to let you know that this is possible. I'm going to give you like a step-by-step plan today. I'm going to give you some strategies and like, you can do this. Like, I've helped plenty of people get out of credit card debt and all of a sudden be like, wow, it wasn't as painful as I thought it was going to be. And I'm like, I know. And I've survived and I'm on the other side of it. So you can do this too. I promise. Okay. There's plenty of people who have paid off credit card debt and they're not smarter than you. They're not better than you. They don't have anything else more than you. All they did was just decide that it was time. It was their moment to get out of debt. Okay. So first thing we want to do is let's just get a clear picture and strategy of your debt. So we want to make a list of all of your debts. So like I said before, I just had one credit card. It was just one credit card. And I did that because I got some great advice from my husband. who was like, just have one credit card to keep your finances simple. But if that's not you, totally fine. We need to get a clear picture of your debt. Make a list of all your debts, the credit cards, personal loans, medical bills. Note the total amount, the interest rates, and the minimum monthly payment. All you want to do is just understand what you're dealing with. And you know what else this helps with? Shame. A lot of my clients haven't done this exercise. They haven't looked at, the rates on their credit cards. They forgot about another loan they had over here. They forgot about the medical bill over here. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, wow. So this was either a lot more than I thought, or maybe it was less than I thought. But just getting that clear picture of what actually are we tackling? What are we dealing with? And getting it all out there. It can also be a great exercise if you are terrified of looking at your money. If you're so scared to look at your money, you log into your bank account, your heart pounds, your chest tightens, and you log right out. This is a great exercise for you to practice. So all we want to do is just lay out all the numbers. Let's just see what's going on. Let's just see what we're dealing with. And then from there, we can start to create our plan. Okay, so we list out all of our debts, list out the interest rates, list out the monthly payments. We're going to come back to that. Okay. We just want to put it out there. First step is just like looking at it. The first step is getting it out there. All right. Second thing we're going to do. Now, we are going to create what I'm not going to call it a budget. I'm just going to call it a spending plan. Okay. Because I think I've started to realize once I'm talking with clients that they think that they already have a budget. I realize everyone in the world has different definitions of budgets. So if you have a different definition, what is your definition of budget that you have right now? And write it down below in the comments if you're watching on YouTube. Or send me a message on Instagram and tell me what's your definition of budget? Okay, because this is what I'm figuring out, is that when I say budget, some of my clients think that they already have a budget. And instead, what they have is they just have a spreadsheet that lists their monthly expenses, but it doesn't list everything else they spend money on. So it's listing their what I should call their monthly recurring expenses. So they're not tracking their spending. They just basically have a spreadsheet that's keeping track of their monthly recurring expenses, but they're not keeping track of that other money that's outside of those monthly recurring expenses, right? Every single month, you're going to pay your cell phone bill, you're going to pay your rent or your mortgage, you're going to pay a water bill, an electricity bill. Every single month, you're going to pay for groceries, you're going to pay for dining out. But there could be these sneaky other things that are happening too, right? Or maybe for you, you forget about the dining part and the grocery part, and you're just writing down those basic expenses that you have. So we all have these different definitions of budget. So when my client says she has a budget and I look and then I'm like, wait, that's not a budget. Oh, so this is what you think a budget is. Okay. What do you think a budget is? Now, I'm going to call this part creating a spending plan, because that actually is telling us what we need to do. We don't need to write down the expenses that occur every single month, although that's part of our spending plan. What we really need to write down, though, is what we're spending our money on. And we need to know where our money is being spent and maybe even give it direction before it's being spent. Okay. So before you get the next paycheck, maybe every dollar in that paycheck has a job, right? So think of this instead of a budget, think of it as a spending plan. You want to really figure out where your money is being spent and maybe create a plan for where it's going. Obviously, I'm always going to suggest, start that free 34-day trial if you need a budget. Just open that up and you can keep track of your spending and you need a budget. Okay. And then what we're going to do is once we create that spending plan, once we kind of see this is where I'm going to be spending my money this month, or this is where I have been spending my money and I didn't know I was spending my money, what we're going to start to figure out is we're going to start to identify what I like to call our money values. So this is why I don't think that people like financial influencers or people like Dave Ramsey, not all financial influencers. I just think that certain role models in the financial world sometimes don't work for people. And I think it's because they put their money values on you. right? And we all like to spend our money so differently. Like you could have a conversation with someone and be like, yeah, I spent $300 on this dress today. And they might be like, oh my God, $300 on a dress. Right? They might be like shocked. And to you, that's totally normal. And then imagine this person you're having this conversation with comes back and they said, I spent $300 on gardening plants today. And you might be like, oh my God, why would you spend that much money on gardening plants? And I can even recall like having this type of conversation in a coffee shop one day. Me, the girl who owned the coffee shop, another girl was in there, and we were all talking about spending money on like clothes and how it was interesting how we would look at, the prices of shipping differently now. Like if someone's going to charge us to ship things now that we're all so used to having free shipping or, it sometimes blows us away, but then we could go to another website and they're going to charge us $10 or $15 more, but it includes free shipping. So we do it, right? Just little things like that. And the way we look at money and the way we value where it's being spent. We all have different places we like to spend our money. And there is nothing right or wrong about how you like to spend your money. So that's the beef I have with sometimes financial people who put their money values on you. Like I know Dave Ramsey's thing is all about never see the inside of a restaurant if you have debt, right? And maybe it's because he's not someone that values spending money at restaurants, right? And that's totally fine. That's fine if Dave has that value. But it's also totally fine if someone else does value spending money at restaurants, but maybe they don't value spending money on clothes, or maybe they don't value spending money on, I don't know, expensive tools, right? Like it could be anything. So I think the point here is for you to truly identify what are the things you truly need right now in your life when you are creating that spending plan. Like if I was to do this, for example, right, all over again, I am a mom, I work, I'm busy, I still have little kids. So for me, dining out is something that cannot be cut out. I just sometimes don't have the energy at the end of the day. Like dining out would be where I would put my money. But I could take my money from other things. Like I'm not a girl who spends money on getting my nails done or like I don't do my nails, I don't do eyelashes, I don't do Botox or anything like that. So I wouldn't put money there. But other women I know who are maybe working moms, they look at that stuff as like the only thing they get relief from, and they don't mind cooking. So it would be okay if this woman wants to spend money on getting her nails done or getting her eyelashes done that month, right? And then instead she decides she's going to cook more at home because she doesn't mind cooking. She likes cooking. So like that's where, and neither of us in those situations are right or wrong for how we like to spend our money. And neither of us need to feel shame or need to feel like we need to cut back or we immediately need to, you know, eliminate everything fun in our life if we have debt. That's not the way to go. We're doing this long term. We're sticking with this plan for a while. So we got to have something in there for you and something that you value. Okay. All right. So that's the second part. Coming up with our spending plan, coming up with our money values. Now, third piece we're coming into is looking at evaluating your current money coming in. So we really, now that we've laid out the debt, we've laid out the spending plan, we need to see how much money is coming in and how much money needs to go out in order to get out of debt. This is a good piece to look at. I think some people have the mindset, and this is what I used to have the mindset around, was that I never focused at how much money I saved. It was always about how much money I made. And honestly, that's not the way to go. Like, from a financial perspective, money saved versus money earned, penny saved versus penny earned. A penny saved is more money than a penny earned. And I can talk about that in another series. But looking at making more money is never something that like I would want any of my clients or students to not do, but I don't want it to be the thing. Like, I don't want it to be the thing that you can't pay off debt until you make more money. You can't do this thing until you pay off more, until you make more money, right? I don't want that to be the thing. But of course, I want you to take this. So I've come up with a couple things that I've come up with. There's easy things, there's medium things, and there's hard ways to make more money. So easy is just looking at the way you currently make money and could that be increased? So if you have a job, can you ask for a raise? Can you ask for a promotion? If you have a business, is it time to raise your prices? Is it time to get more clients? Is it time to market yourself more, right? Like, don't go towards creating something completely new in order for you to make money. If you have a job, if you have a business, if you have a skill, look at utilizing those first. And then we can move on to like the harder stuff, like medium stuff, I would say, is freelancing, like taking a skill that you have built and you're making money off of. So whether that is something like you do video work, you're a photographer, you do some type of consulting, you can do, design work, anything like that, like the skill that you have right now that you use in a job or in your business, then you can start to look at like, could you do freelancing? Could you do gig work, taking on side jobs, things like that. But that's still what I consider like that's still like a heavy piece. Now you have to start freelancing. Now you have to start asking for clients, right? Look at that easy part first. Look at how you're making money now. How can you make more of that right now with what you're doing? So when I look at that part, I'm always asking my clients, how can you make more money right now without adding more work hours to your load? Because that can be a cycle that people get into, is that if I just work more, I'll make more money. And that's not always the case. And it's not always the best way to build wealth. Okay. It's not the way to build wealth, honestly. But since we're just talking about debt payoff here, I want us to just look at, how can I make more money right now without working more hours? How is that possible? That's the easy part. The medium part is like, okay, I want to increase my working hours a little bit so I can pay off debt and save money. Could I do something like freelancing? Could I do something like that? The last part is what I call the hard mode of making more money. And that's doing something like getting a second job, starting a business. These are things that are like, it could be changing careers. If your career is it's just not a place where you're going to make a lot of money, you could look at changing a careers, learning a new skill, going back to school, right? This is like a life changing, right? This is like sitting down, looking at your money, looking at your debt and saying, is the path I'm on right now with how I'm going to make money, is this going to be the best option for me and to build wealth and to make money in the long run? That's one of those big questions. So that's what I leave as the hard part. But I don't want to focus too much on this part because I just feel like it's just a very small piece of the puzzle. Most of us aren't doing the managing money part. And I think a lot of us can be very good at making the money part and working more. That's probably very easy for people, especially in America. But to me, it's just not this thing that we need to focus on at all. All right, moving on to part 4. Part 4 is not going to be paying off debt. I'm not going to tell you to pay off your debt first. We have laid out our debt. We've come up with our spending plan. We have figured out our money values. We've thought about some ways we can make some extra money. And now we think, okay, got all these pieces, time to pay off the debt. And I say, nope, not yet. It's not time to pay off debt yet. First, what I want you to do, I don't want you to get in the cycle of paying off debt, getting back into debt, paying off debt, getting back into, paying off debt, getting, right? I don't want you to get in that cycle. What I want you in is I want you to pay off debt, stay out of debt. Okay. And in order to do that, what we have to do first is build an emergency fund, or sometimes what I like to call these is money buffers. These are the things that will stop you from building debt anymore. People can, it's like, like a quick weight loss thing, right? People can lose weight. It's simple, right? You just burn more calories than you eat, than you take in. It's simple math, right? And money is the same. Just spend less than you earn, right? But how does this happen? And a lot of times it's because of this one thing. A lot of people don't know how to save money. They know how to pay off debt. They don't know how to stay out of debt. And that's because they never learned the skill of saving money. So what we're going to do first, before you even put an extra payment towards that debt payoff, before you even put an extra $10 to that debt payoff or $100, nope. What you're going to do is you're going to save some money first. This can be something like small. We can do something that's just going to keep you motivated. So maybe it's $1,000. When you work with me one-on-one in my coaching program, I always have my clients save at least 2 weeks of expenses. So if their monthly expenses are around, after we create their you need a budget, if I know their monthly expenses are around $7,000 or $5,000, we're creating, a money buffer for 2 weeks of $2,500 or $3,500, right? So for you, what's that number that will feel really good for you to have? You can go up to the month. You can go up to 3 months. I have saved, when I first paid off my debt, I paid off $25,000 of debt, but you know what I did first? First, I saved 6 months of personal expenses and business expenses. And I did this because I was pregnant at the time. This was my second pregnancy, by the way. This was my second pregnancy. I started paying off debt after my daughter was born, and I had my son 16 months after she was born. So I had my children very close together. So within 16 months, I had paid off $25,000 of credit card debt and saved 6 months of personal expenses and 6 months of business expenses. Now, keep in mind, please, to keep this relative to you. When you're thinking about saving, what, like if your expenses are like $30,000, or your business expenses are $1,000, you're thinking about saving $6,000 and then $30,000 in your personal. I had low personal and business expenses, and I did that intentionally. Now there's a completely, totally different episode you can listen to about that, about what I did to lower that. So I didn't have to save, $6,000. I was like, I don't have to save $6,000. I just need to save the minimum amount that I need here. But anyways, coming back to that, saving 6 months of expenses, knowing I was going into another maternity leave, knowing that I really had a lot of instability that at that time in my business, just with, like learning this new skill and paying off debt. And I was like, I feel really good saving 6 months, and I'm okay with delaying my debt payoff a little bit further. If this means I stay out of debt for my children's lives, like for their whole life, for the first 5 years of their life, I just want to stay out of debt as long as I can. So I'm going to save 6 months of expenses. So I saved 6 months of expenses in both areas of my life and paid off $25,000 of debt within 16 months. So before my son was then born, which was crazy. But it was wonderful, because here I am almost 3 years later. I finished my last debt payment the month before my son was born. So he'll be 3 in September. So almost 3 years later, still debt free. Wow, which is very crazy for me to say. So back to you and your plan. What you're going to do is you are going to save money, and you can save $1,000. You can save, like I said, 1 month, 2 weeks, 6 months, 3 months, a year. I want to go a year. A year is a little ridiculous, but I have no issue. I know people fight me on this topic all the time, but if you Google it, like, this is pretty standard financial advice from any certified financial planner, from any financial content creator. We always encourage clients and people to save money first before the debt payoff, because you got into debt because you didn't have money saved. If you had money saved, you would have used that instead of using your credit card. And that's why the financial advice is always save some money first, so you can stop getting into debt, and then you won't get back into debt again. Okay, so that's my little spiel there. I could talk about that all day long if people really wanted me to, but I've already made a whole video about why you need to save money before you pay off debt, and you can watch that, and I'll leave the link down below. Okay, now, let's say we're doing this, right? This is all happening in real time. So you've saved some money, and now it's like, all right, let's move on to the debt repayment strategy. So there is an actual strategy that all of us probably have heard of or know of. And there's 2 big ones. And then I'm going to give you my special one that I came up with all by myself that's worked pretty well for some clients. All right. So let's talk about how you're going to pay off your debt. I think a lot of people look at the APR of their credit card and think kind of like that's the way to go. But there is also the other method, which is called the snowball method. So snowball method is instead not looking at the APR. That would be the avalanche method, which is paying off the debt that has the highest percentage and paying off that debt first. And then the snowball method, though, is just looking at the debt with the lowest amount because it keeps you motivated. Like it gives you this real momentum feeling of like, I can pay off debt. I can get out of debt. Look, I already have one card down, just two more to go, or, just this thing to go. Now, when I was doing this, like I said, I had one credit card. So there was no debt repayment strategy. It was just this credit card. But those are two methods that are very popular, that work very well, have proven to work very well. My bonus strategy that I have done with some clients that seems to have worked is that I use a method that's called the emotional method. So I have noticed with some of my clients, they have this like one credit card, and maybe it was something like they spent money on and they regret so much. I just like when I'm talking with my clients about their debt, I hear it in their voice that they're just like, and then on that card, oh, I spent money on like this thing and like it didn't work out, or like I spent money to go on this trip with like my ex-boyfriend and like I'm so mad that I spent that money on that trip. And I'm like, you know what? What if we try this emotional way first? What if we try the emotional method first, which is where you pay off the debt that feels the most emotional, right? It could be like for me, I mean, if I had my debt on different cards, I can point out which one would have made me feel the worst and I wanted it gone. And that was I had put money into this launch and then I had got pregnant right at the same time as the launch. And it all fell apart because I was so sick from my pregnancy. And I just had so many emotions around it. Like, I can't believe I let that launch fail. I had invested in Facebook ads for it. I had done this launch before and it was successful and I did the same thing and it just flopped. And like, so if I had that money on a different credit card, that would have been the first one I would have paid off 1,000%. I just had so many emotions. Or I've had friends who've, bought into like really expensive coaching programs. And then the coaching program just like gave them nothing in return. And there was so much emotional, you know, it was so many emotions that were happening around that debt that I was like, this is the debt we need to pay off. Like we need to pay this off first because it's so intense for you. I can feel it. Or if there's just, it's just something you just really regret. Like if there's just so much high emotion around it, like pay that debt off first. See how that feels. Like I think that will, it will release you from just like a lot of shame, a lot of guilt, a lot of fear, and just like go with that first and just see if that gives you the motivation and the momentum to keep going, then keep doing it that way. Unless you feel motivation and momentum from doing the avalanche method and the snowball method, all we want you to do here is just be consistent and just like whatever's going to keep you motivated, let's do that. Let's not even look at like APRs or anything like that. It's just all about what will keep you motivated. All right. Okay. So there's our debt repayment strategy that we have. And you know what, guys? The last part is if you're really struggling, okay, if you're really struggling with paying off your debt, if it just feels like so big, if it just feels like monumentous, like you just can't figure out, you can't get around it, you don't know what you're doing wrong. You feel like you want someone to see it for you, to help you, to guide you, right? And to give you those answers. There's so many ways to get help with finances right now. There's obviously free YouTube videos. There's great TikTok information sometimes just double check some sources, right? Of like financial content. There's credit counseling services. I don't know how much they charge, but I know they're available to certain people have certain situations. There's so many different ways to get help. You can even go to, um, is there sometimes at banks, I think they may be able to direct you to like financial content or sorry, not financial content, like a place that can give you financial advice or they can guide you. I think the biggest thing though here is making sure that you find the type of help, okay? Because I've seen a lot of people go this route sometimes, down this rabbit hole with financial advice. And make sure you find financial advice that like truly wants to see what you're doing with your money, that isn't just there just to like yes man isn't there like, because I think so many people don't know what to do with their money. So I think the most important part of this is to make sure you get educated first on how to handle your money. Okay. Before you go and just kind of try to just give it over to someone else, read as much as you can. Watch as much as you can. Listen as much as you can about money first before you go to someone else who is going to give you a plan. So it could even be, oh my God, there's so many books, right? There's a You Need a Budget book. There is Smart Women Finish Rich. There is Smart Couples Finish Rich. I loved his series. His name is David Bach. Is it David Bach or Bach? I mean, you can go to like Susie Orman and them just to get there's The Millionaire Next Door, which is one of my favorite, just to get a general idea of good financial education. Okay. Before you go like someplace else to get financial advice. Just make sure you know what the right thing is to do with your money because you've read books, you've listened to things. And then when you go to someone else and they're giving you guidance, just make sure it aligns with the same thing you have learned. Okay. That's the most important thing to me, is that you are getting that and you are understanding that. Ask questions when you are going to someone else for help. Ask questions. Ask like, why am I doing it this way? What am I doing this for? Like, should I be saving this much? Should I be putting it here? Right? Always ask questions. Empower yourself to know that like you're allowed to ask questions, you're allowed to ask for help, that you can get there. Like you can get to this place you want to get to, but just make sure that you are getting the education. I know it's kind of a little bit of a tangent. Mostly what I'm just trying to hammer home is that you understand what's happening with your money, because I just feel like as I push the idea for people to get financial content and people to get financial education, sometimes there's people out there who don't have great intentions with handling your money. If you decide to hand over your money to someone and have them handle it, and so I want you to just make sure that when you are in a position of giving someone else power to make decisions, you question their decisions and you know what you're talking about. You have education behind you, and that you can ask these questions and don't feel intimidated. You can ask questions. Okay. All right. And here, I will always give the best, most heart-centered type of financial advice that I can give. That is always my intention here. And I think the best way for me to do that is to empower people to ask questions around finances, to start watching videos like this that explain some things, that get people encouraged to read books about money. I've always, since I was like a little girl, I've always wanted to be this woman who like could take care of her money, who could be this woman who could take care of herself, who could take care of her money. And it felt so scary because I just didn't know. I didn't have, like the background, like a family that knew about money or anything like that. And so I just encourage you just to empower your own financial education. Okay, cool. All right. Now, last part of this. Here's my little spiel to you. Okay. If you have to pay off $25,000 of debt or more, and you don't have any savings, this is a marathon, okay? Not a sprint. This is going to be a marathon. We're going to celebrate small victories along the way. We are going to stay focused on the long-term goal. And remember that every move and every payment and every dollar you save brings you one step closer to financial freedom. Many people have been in your shoes and successfully climbed out of debt, and you can do it too. And I've helped so many people also climb out of debt. Okay. I hope you find these tips helpful. I hope you feel a little bit more empowered and educated to tackle your debt. Just remember that you can do this. People have come before you who are not as smart as you and not as savvy as you, and they've done it. like really think about it, like you might be watching this, you may have debt, and I might be like, a little bit less smarter than you when it comes to some things, like I've known people who are doctors who are incredibly smart, but maybe they're not smart with their money, and like just because we're smart in one area doesn't mean we can't get smart in another area. Okay. If you have any questions or need any further advice, feel free to reach out to me on Instagram or leave me a comment below on the YouTube video. You can find me on Instagram at Shannon DePalma Coach. You can subscribe to my channel on YouTube where I'll be releasing more videos like this. And you can also follow me on Spotify on Financially Fearless. And until next time, keep empowering yourself around your money and around your finances. And I believe in you. All right. Talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.